The media giant News Corporation has been in damage control for a year as evidence mounts about the scale of phone hacking by some of its British journalists. Now, the Australian Financial Review has published details of the company's role in high-tech piracy aimed at sabotaging its pay TV rivals here. That sparked demands for a police investigation. And it's added to a hectic week for the Communications Minister, Stephen Conroy. He's also had to deal with the fallout from the government's decision to ban a Chinese telco from the National Broadband Network because the company's seen as a security threat. And today he announced the broadband network's rollout targets. He joined me a short time ago. Stephen Conroy, welcome.
Good to be with you.
Do you see any evidence that News Corporation or News Limited have broken any laws in relation to the way it's dealt with its pay TV competitors?
Well, as you know, the 14,000 emails that I think went online yesterday, it hasn't been possible remotely for anyone to, other than the AFR, to have gone through them. But if there's any evidence, then the AFR should refer it to the police. It's very clear cut here.
But you don't have any evidence?
No, absolutely not. The government has not put a reference to the Federal Police. The Federal Police have said we have not received a reference. And I think the only organisation that's had the resources and the pre-knowledge of this is the AFR. And if they think there is any evidence whatsoever, they should immediately put it to the Federal Police.
Your department would be more expert in this part of the law than anyone. Do you have any advice that they've broken the law?
Well, at this stage, as I said, even if I had all 650 members of my department reading the 14,000 emails, I doubt I would have been able to get a comprehensive report yet.
When you look at the timing of this, that News apparently used high-tech piracy to sabotage its rivals, given the timing, were there any laws in place that it could have broken then?
Well, I've seen commentary in the Financial Review where they've said, look, we haven't detected, we haven't found, after going through it, any breaches of the law. They point to the fact that back in those years there may not have been laws that covered this issue. So, by definition, the AFR are saying we're not alleging any illegal activity.
So, apart from the fact that News Limited is tough, is powerful and likes to throw its weight around, there's no evidence at all, really, of any wrongdoing.
Well, as I said, the AFR are the only organisation that would have the capacity at this point in time to have gone through those emails, and they're not making any allegation along those lines.
Can we perhaps look at another level then? Do you think, given all the evidence that we've seen from around the world of the way that News Corporation behaves in the United Kingdom and the way it behaves here, that Rupert Murdoch is a fit and proper person to be running television networks here or news organisations here?
Well, look, it's not my job to judge anything that's happened overseas. There are laws of different countries that are different, and ultimately courts will decide if there's been any matters whatsoever that are referred to them in terms of that sort of behaviour. Here in Australia, newspapers aren't licensed. So there's no fit and proper person test for a licence. There are some issues around broadcasting licences, pay TV licences, and as I said, those are rightfully judged by an independent statutory authority at arm's length from government, as it should be.
Should we be more concerned about the Chinese telco Huawei, which has been banned from taking part in the National Broadband Network because the government's concerned that it might spy?
Well, look, we've taken the proper advice from the proper organisations. We've gone through the proper processes. We've made a decision and we're very comfortable with that decision. We've taken a stand that we believe is in Australia's national interest, unlike those in the opposition who are simply championing the case of a Chinese company.
But put simply, it is that you believe that Huawei is a security risk.
Look, we're not going to comment on the advice that we receive, but we've taken a decision based on national security grounds that we believe is in Australia's national interest.
How can we come to any other conclusion but that Huawei is a security risk if you've taken a decision on national security grounds that they can't participate in the National Broadband Network?
Well, I'm not in a position to comment on the confidential advice that we're given by our agencies in this area, but we're very comfortable that we've taken a prudent decision that is in Australia's national interests, and we intend to stick by it.
Today you announced the timetable for the rollout of the National Broadband Network past 3.5 million premises. Are you convinced that you'll get there on time and on budget over the next 3 years?
Absolutely. What you've seen over the last 12 months is that it's taken us about 6 to 8 months longer than we expected to negotiate with Telstra. That's because they were tough. And Mike Quigley and the team weren't prepared to give Telstra $1 of taxpayers' money more than they believed was appropriate. So you've got a situation where that took 6 to 8 months longer. Then a couple of months extra from the ACCC. We were hoping to have all this information ticked off by the ACCC back in December. It was ticked off a few weeks ago. So we're now at the situation where all the construction contracts are inked, signed, prices agreed. And there was a bit of a furore. You may remember a while back where the people said, oh, look, NBN's cost of construction is going to blow out. And we stood up the construction companies and said, no, we're not prepared to take those prices. So Mike Quigley again safeguarded taxpayers' money. So in terms of cost, in terms of timing, we've now received all the information that we needed from Telstra to begin the volume rollout. And what we've announced today, you'll be able to judge by the end of the year, by the middle of next year, whether or not that volume rollout is being successful.
And you're happy to live by those timetables?
Absolutely. We believe that these timetables are put in place are based on all the information that we now need. Those old information in the old corporate plan was based on a start date which is nearly 9 months later than was planned. So when you recalibrate, you go, here is the new start date based on the volume rollout. You start judging right now.
Just quickly, was it a mistake at the outset with the NBN to say it would both be a social benefit and have a commercial rate of return?
Not at all. We believe that a 7% rate of return is a very reasonable utility rate of return. And you will achieve it. And we're very confident we'll achieve it. If you look at the pricing that's starting to come into play, I mean, there's been these claims of $200, $180 for the cost of the NBN. The cheapest price in the marketplace today is $29.95. At that sort of pricing, you are going to see people be very interested to get on board.
Stephen Conroy, thank you.
Thanks very much, Chris.